As dawn breaks and the sun rays kiss the still waters of Lake Victoria, a semblance of tranquility and peace sweeps over the horizon, belling the murky political season that is just about to hit the terrain. And with the sunrise,
good.
Budalangi MP powers the start of his day, all in a bid to gather his political thoughts.
Some of the most momentous decisions I've made politically and socially have been made here. I retreat here a lot. I retreat here to relax. I retreat here to think. I retreat here to reflect. And I retreat here to make major decisions, yes.
From the winding hills to the expansive waters, it is a break from the high-voltage politics. Here, there is a sense of belonging and a feeling of surmounting the insurmountable. It is home.
We are aquatic beings. We love water. We found water therapeutic. It's calming, it's healing. And really, it was a natural choice for myself and my family.
It is a familiar territory over which he has reigned politically, so to speak, for the last 2 terms, since his first election in 2007 as a Member of Parliament. But in 2016, he made a big gamble that might have a bearing on the direction of his future as an MP. His decision to abandon ODM, a party he was serving as Secretary General, may make or break him.
They say, like wine, it gets better with time. It gets better with age. I believe I have got better with the passage of time. I believe I have a lot to offer, both my people and also the nation, our nation, Kenya. And so, yes, I'll be defending my parliamentary seat on August 8th, 2017. I'm very confident, very, very confident of retaining this seat. And my confidence is born out of the fantastic relationship I have built with my people.
You've been an ardent supporter of the Orange Party. You actually fought very hard to become Secretary General. We know what happened, the chaos that happened at Kasarani and the subsequent negotiated deal for the leadership structure. Then at some point you decided to walk out. Why was that?
I was never intended to serve effectively as a Secretary General. One, it dawned on me that just before I took over Secretary General, drastic changes had been made in the office of Secretary General by creating offices whose import was to take authority from the office of the Secretary General and leave that office as a shell. The Office of Secretary for Political Affairs had been created and handed to PO&I. The Office of Director of Elections had been created and handed to Junet Mohammed. The Office of Director of Communication had been created and handed to Philip Etale.
Namwamba claims his troubles began immediately he expressed interest in stepping into Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o's shoes as Secretary General of ODM.
Raila Odinga, the ODM party leader, looked me straight in the eye and told me, Ababu, I don't see any better successor to Professor Nyong'o than you. Go for it by all means. He concluded by saying, take my support and my goodwill for granted. You can take them for granted.
Despite Odinga's assurance, he says the tide against him was growing by the day.
All of a sudden, there was this wave of propaganda woven against me. It's the first time I heard the term mole. I'm a mole. I can't be trusted. I was very hurt, extremely. I was very disturbed. I sought audience with the party leader. And my concern was that what is going on is worrying me. Some of these sentiments were coming too close to the center of power. I was hearing voices from Oburu Odinga. I was hearing voices from people like Eliud Owalo, who had just been presidential campaign manager for Raila Odinga. And so I asked the party leader, is this reflective of your position? Do you have a problem with me running for Secretary General? He assured me he had no problem.
With that assurance, Namwamba formed a team that would include Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho, his Turkana counterpart Josephat Nanoka, among others. They displayed an open show of opulence and flamboyance in their campaigns, crisscrossing the country with choppers.
Another wave of propaganda was born, and it was that the ODM Fresh is being funded by enemies of the party. In fact, it was clearly stated that the sponsor of ODM Fresh is the Deputy President William Ruto, and so Ababu wants to take over the party and sell it to William Ruto. I don't know what William Ruto was supposed to do after buying ODM. That's the story of another day.
When pressed about his relationship with Deputy President William Ruto, Namwamba is coy about it, only insisting that the Deputy President has always been his friend. The status remains as so.
He was my friend when we served together as ODM. He was my friend when we were members of Parliament in the 10th Parliament. He was my friend when we were both cabinet ministers in the Grand Coalition government. He's been my friend after we split up. He moved out of ODM, I remained in ODM. He's my friend when he became Deputy President. Today he's Deputy Party Leader of Jubilee, and I'm Party Leader of Labour, and we are still friends. And I owe nobody no apology, no explanation for who my friends are.
Back to ODM matters, and the two-term Budalangi MP claims an elaborate scheme had been hatched to ensure his team was not elected into office in the botched February 28, 2014 elections.
On the eve of the election, on 27th, elections were held on 28th February 2014. On the 27th, we received the reports, intelligence, very, very reliable intelligence, that the elections were going to be disrupted at Kasarani. In fact, the source of our intel was so clear. And I quote the source, there'll be no election at Kasarani.
He says he sought the audience and assurance of Odinga about the situation.
We had a very candid meeting with Raila Odinga. And we laid our intel bare on his table. And we told him, plans are at a very advanced stage to disrupt the elections at Kasarani. Boys have been hired. This evening, as we meet you, they are also meeting at a place called 3D Restaurant on Gong Road. Our intel tells us, after you meet us, you will pass by there to meet them at 3D. They are actually there already waiting for you. He denied it. He denied any knowledge of the men in black. He gave us the assurance that elections would go on.
And on the floor of the delegates' conference, Namwamba insists it was very clear who the delegates were rooting for.
It was crystal, unequivocal, unambiguously clear, the preference of the delegates in terms of the party leadership. When my name was mentioned for the position of Secretary General, the House came down. Absolutely. And it sent a very clear message to the so-called status quo that this election, if it's allowed to proceed, these guys will sweep all positions.
Please, 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 delegates, we want the registers read because people are voting aimlessly. We want the register brought here before election is done. We want the register brought here before election is done. We want the...
Be it as it may, it's now what under the bridge. The election, of course, it went according to the script of the intel that we had gathered. Exactly. The dress code, the numbers, the command of the men in black. It was exactly as our intel had submitted to us. They disrupted the election.
Order, order, order.
With the elections bungled and a leadership vacuum within the party, a retreat in Naivasha was convened in November of 2014 and a deal hashed to merge the two factions that were contesting the elections, where Namwamba was appointed Secretary General. But even this, he claims, was a booby trap.
I was being set up so that I would always be reminded that you are never elected. Who elected you Secretary General? Raila Odinga made you Secretary General. And none other than Jacoyo Midiwo confirmed that in June this year. When speaking from Game, he said, I hear Ababu saying that he does not have the full authority of the office of Secretary General. How can he have full authority in an office where he was never elected? Ababu was never elected Secretary General. Ababu was made Secretary General. And then I said, so that was the whole plan.
Namwamba, who is now the leader of the Labour Party of Kenya, says this was the cue for other party functionaries to undermine him.
We moved a motion at Manzoni. We passed it. As Secretary General, I communicated that decision to the nation, that we are disbanding the elections board and we'll appoint a new board. A few days later, the director of communication, a junior staffer, actually a staffer, issues a statement contradicting that position of NEC communicated by the Secretary General. And when I found out where did this come from, I was told that was done on the instructions of the party leader. I said,
Namwamba lays the blame for his woes at the doorstep of his then party boss, Raila Odinga.
I believe he was not honest with me. I believe he was not candid with me. He was not honest with me in terms of what he desired for the leadership of the party. It is obvious that Raila Odinga desired Agnes Zani to be Secretary General of ODM in preference to Ababu Namwamba. He should have had the courage, the honesty, and the sincerity to tell me that. And if he had been honest with me on that, I wouldn't have contested. I wouldn't have gone against his will. That is the much respect I had for him.
And to that extent, according to Namwamba, the ODM leader has failed a critical test.
He failed the test of a mentor, of a role model that is proud to see his protege emerge, grow, and blossom in the party. Today, I would ask you, who within ODM for the last 10 years, or for the period that Raila Odinga has been in politics, whom has he mentored?
Nonetheless, matters have not been smooth for Namwamba after he left ODM. Some of the leaders he bolted with have since made an about turn, creating the impression that he was a lone ranger, at least for now.
About the people you mentioned, Mheshimiwa Tuoma, my brother Waluke, at a time when we expressed our disaffection with how things were being run in ODM, we never had the goal or the agenda of heading into a party together. That is something I need to clarify. Myself and the others never sat down and said, we are going to leave ODM and then head to another party. No.
He claims he has rejected overtures from various leaders and parties from Western Kenya.
Ford Kenya approached me. I held a meeting with Moses Wetangula, Senator Halwale, and their team. They approached me to join Ford Kenya. I declined respectfully. My brother Musalia approached me to join ANC. I declined respectfully. I looked at the political environment, the political scene. I settled on Labour. And I'm very happy and contented in Labour. My singular mission right now is to make Labour Party a formidable political actor on the Kenyan political scene.
As to his political future, he is leaving all options open as he watches the political season unravel. His aim being to hitch his wagon to the winning political train later this year.
Don't get too worked up, Chief. Relax. Today Ababu may be here. Tomorrow you may be with Ababu in the same team. Okay? By August 8th, 2017, things will have changed so much. So before you get worked up, you never know. who is going to end up with whoever. And that's just politics. It's about interests.
Sam Ogina, Citizen Live at 9.